Back now to our next conversation. According to the report released by the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics, construction contributed about 11.79% to nominal GDP in the first quarter of 2023, higher than the 9.68% it contributed a year earlier and higher than the 10.16% contributed to the fourth quarter of 2022. Also, we see real estate services contribute about 4.46% to the nominal GDP in the first quarter of 2023. Well, joining me now for analysis is Engineer Dr. Oyeleke Ajiboye, MD, CEO, Efficacy Construction Limited, joining me right here in the studio. Great to have you. Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Ladi. Good morning.
Yeah, so it's all about inflation right now, and definitely I know your industry is feeling its own kind of inflation. Break it down for us. How do you see this figure that came in? Was it to your expectation?
The figure is my expectation, actually, because when you look at the statistics that came out from CBN and FMB and Federal Mortgage Bank in January, so we still have about 28 million housing deficits. So, you know, there's a huge gap to catch up with. So people will keep moving, real estate will still keep going on, construction will keep going on. However, we'll now have the challenge of what is affordable. We'll now start having the challenge of where is it going to. And then, you know, the market has different segments. So we have the high end, the middle, the lower. So the middle is going to shrink, and then there will be a lot of market for the low end. So you start seeing people migrating. Some people will leave Lagos, start living in maybe Abeokuta or Shogbo, because so we look at inflation now with prices. Actually, the way prices of items and commodities have gone up is even higher than the inflation rate, actually. So when you look at it that way, house rent is up, transport is on, school fees is on, school bus is on. A lot of people will now start looking at their budget. What do they have? What's the available disposable income? At this level,
you still have that dream of owning your home.
Exactly.
Your own home.
So it's either you go to your village or you start going to. So that is still a real estate transaction. So the numbers are still going up because you have a population. There is still, the need is there. And there's really no way to fill up that vacuum for now.
All right, let's look at the first half now of 2023. How do you see the contribution of construction industry and real estate to Nigeria's GDP?
So from the data you just shared, it actually shows that 2023, the first half is actually better than 2022. However, you know, a couple of things would add up to this. Like I said, the demand. And the second one is when you look at the reason why people are investing in real estate. Real estate is one of the easiest ways to passively invest. So you want to keep your money somewhere, let it give you income without bothering yourself. Real estate is one of. And when you now look at inflation again, one of the easiest ways to hedge against inflation is to use real estate. So these will actually still keep pushing investors in this direction. However, the same due diligence you do when you want to buy a stock is the same thing you have to do when you're buying a real estate. So that as you're trying to hedge against inflation, you don't lose your capital.
Definitely, you know, when you hear investment in real estate, first thing that comes to mind is it's expensive.
Yeah.
I don't have that bulk money to put down and to buy that land or that property at this time. And this not being a credit economy, you cannot, you know, afford to, you know, buy a house, you know, through the banks and all of that. It is very expensive. What's the way out? So,
this conversation is very interesting because considering what is happening now with the high price of things, I think one of the things the executive should advise the president is to raise the limit on Federal Mortgage Bank housing. So all these 8,000 palliative for the very low people, let's also look at ways to increase that 15 million housing bar, the limit that you can. There's no 15 million house anyway, actually. So when you raise that to about 25 million, you're actually giving people more opportunity to own a house at a very, very low single-digit interest rate. That will also help people to pay, because how many people can afford 20 million at a go, 30 million at a go? So when you do that, the civil servants will really, really take advantage of this. The entrepreneur on the street, the business owner, the people that are in an employed system, the private sector can take advantage and own a house and a property. So when you also look at real estate, there are other organizations that do a lot of instrumental payment plans and all of that. However, so as speculative as real estate is, there is no excuse not to do your due diligence. I keep saying that. I'll give you a scenario. A friend of mine bought a property, and then he was not a friend, a staff of mine was asking me to give him a guideline, and then strangely bought the property in my village, in Osun State. He didn't know. He didn't go there. At the time he bought it, the marketing strategy was pay 500,000, pay over 1 year. However, the value of that property now, at that time he bought, was 50,000 naira. That person has paid in installments, but you will not get value for a long time. So as much as possible, getting opportunity to pay in installments is good, but also do your due diligence and be assured that at the day you are buying, you are making profit. That's the way to invest in real estate, even if it is low. So no matter how low it is, be sure that you're actually getting value from it.
And talking about getting value, we see most of those adverts, most people, marketing different lands, the outskirts, they're supposed to be cheaper, and you see them, telling you can pay in installments. You see the fancy pictures, of the estate, but you get there and you can't even, identify what you're buying. Is that still the right strategy, or how do you go about it? Because it is good, you can buy while it's undervalued and wait for development to come there. That's also, a good strategy, but you can also miss it.
Yes.
With that.
Yes, you can also miss it. So for us, I've been in this sector. Our company has been active for about 15 years. I will tell you that those things have the pros and the cons. So for investors that are buying, you must be able to know the company you are buying from. When push comes to shove, are they able to stand with you? So because when you're doing a long-term investment, doing a land bank, you are not developing at the moment. You are expecting development to push the price of the property up. So I give you a scenario. In 2009, we bought a land somewhere on the Ibejuleki axis for 650,000 naira. That land now is 20 million naira.
Wow.
So when you look at the returns, when I was trying to calculate it recently, it's over 3,000% returns.
In just how long?
In just 15 years. 3,000. There is no investment that can give you that. It's just land. However, there are a couple of things that have to be done to mitigate any issue of loss. So this particular land, when we bought it, that's a gazette. Along the line, we discovered that the gazette had an issue, so government cancelled it. That means the land is no longer valid. So we had to make sure we buy another one to give subscribers, and at the same time go to appeal to the government that we were misled. And fortunately, the governor at that time was Governor Fashola. He gave us back the land with the CFO. But that took like 7 years for us to get it. So after getting it, we just left the land and let it appreciate. So when you look at that cycle, we fenced it, we've been nice to the neighbors, intentionally protected the land. So when you look at it for an investor, it looks very sweet. But not all transactions are like that. So as much as possible, your title has to be good. You must be able to define why you're investing in that real estate. What's your portfolio appetite? Is it for long term? Is it for short term? You could actually buy land. I see a time when Lagos-Ibadan Expressway will be like Ikorodu Road. It'll be very busy. Lekki-Epe Expressway is the fastest developing corridor. The corridor with the highest investment in Africa at the moment. So I see a lot of development, but the fact that the place is developing, your due diligence must be top-notch.
And talking about due diligence, titles are a big issue, and getting the titles at the right time is a big issue. You see, they said most of the properties or lands we see right now in Lagos, a huge amount of that have no titles. Yet they're still being traded, but you cannot use that, to.
So when you buy a property that doesn't have a title, actually it's too risky. Because one of the reasons you're buying the property is either to live in it, make it an asset, trade with it, or be able to sell it some other time. So when a property doesn't have a title, it's a gamble. It's like a Ponzi. If it doesn't have a title, what are the titles in Lagos? A certificate of occupancy, a registered gazette. And when you come to, there's governor's consent, other secondary titles. So when you come to the Ibejuleki axis, there are different ways in which you can actually acquire a title, whether through government allocation or through annexation. So if somebody tells you that he has a freehold in Ibejuleki, Lekki axis, you have to watch it. If they tell you that they have registered survey, it's not a title. As much as possible, if you come to the mainland also, there are locations that are freeholds and all of that. But get a lawyer, get a good estate surveyor, people that cannot trade their loyalty.
And all of that costs money.
Costs money, but it's an investment. A good investment has to, you can't trade away because you don't want to do due diligence and then go and throw your millions away. It's part of the investment cost.
All right, talking about affordability now, we know off-plan housing sales are quite hot.
quite hot.
right now. But what's the strategy to make sure you're
Our
not...
offline is very problematic.
Yes, it does come with a lot of problems.
It comes with a lot of problems. Actually, we do offline in my company too. And if a company is not well strategized and their cash flow is not well managed, offline, I've seen it drown 8 out of 10 organizations that do offline. Because as at the time you put out a product, you have an X amount to sell, you have your profits determined, the percentage of your profit, the cost of the fund that you are using from the bank, and suddenly prices change. Price of items go up, like what we're experiencing now. It's very difficult for you to go back to customers and say, hey, the prices have changed, you want to renegotiate. We don't do that. Some companies do it, but you know what it does is when you do that, you build a wrong history towards your business. So when you don't do that, you have to make sure that a certain percentage is what you are doing off-plan. So we use off-plan as a marketing strategy. So if we have 100 stocks to sell, we might do off-plan for only 20, 30. Also have land, so that any loss you suffer from the off-plan, the ones you sell later can cushion the effect. That's actually the best way. But strangely, you can still find some companies sell out everything on off-plan and then they drown. Off-plan is a very good model for the average person to build up cash flow and then be able to acquire property.
Are they really that affordable?
Off-plan, some are affordable, some are not affordable. So it becomes unaffordable when you also want to sell the future price. The future price is, I'm buying an off-plan now, and I am telling the person that wants to pay, that in 3 years' time, this is what your property is, and I'm selling the price of 3 years' time to you. The buyer at that point is actually losing.
All right.
Yeah.
So it's all about the battle now. Everyone's trying to hedge against inflation. Everybody's running, looking for how to hide,
to balance up,
you know, from inflation. Even with your investments, looking at real estate right now, is it still that hedge?
So looking at real estate, all things being equal, all data's due diligence done, real estate is the best. Yeah. Can tell
Not because it's your industry, though.
No, it's not just because it's my industry. So I also invest in stocks and bonds. So when I look at it, the maximum I can get on any stock per annum is maybe 20%. If the stock does very well and they give me bonus and I get a lot of dividends, maximum 25%. If I get a good land and I leave it passively, the only challenge with real estate is not liquid. So the day you need cash to quickly do some things, you cannot easily just sell.
Right.
But when you talk about the long-term benefit, it is the best. So as much as you want to diversify your portfolio, you must have an investment that gives you liquid income anytime you need bulk cash. And then the real estate is like the surest backup you can have.
Surest backup.
Yes.
All right, even though we all need liquidity. But, well, definitely we know interest rates are really high right now. MPC is meeting next week. Hopefully not another interest rate hike.
But we both know that that's going to happen, really.
It's going to be a hike, definitely.
With the inflation rate that
Maybe, or maybe a pause, because we've seen a pause in the U.S. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Oyeleke Ajiboye, CEO, Efficacy Construction Company. It was great having your perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.